All right, thanks Elaine. Good morning everyone. Good afternoon everybody in the new South Territory with WatchGuard and hopefully the South Central as well. We've extended these out. We're covering a couple of territories with this. So today wanted to introduce you guys to the new AP300s. We didn't do these last month because I didn't have one in my hands and in my possession yet. So now that I've finally gotten a couple of them, we'll be able to show and demonstrate these and show you what we're doing with them and where WatchGuard is going with the with WatchGuard Wi-Fi and improvements we're making there. So with that said, let's just jump right in. Just thought this was interesting, thought I would throw this out here, not really very technical here, but what they've done some studies and are looking at where internet traffic is coming from, where it's going to. And I just love this stat here where we see by 2019 only 19% of traffic going to the internet is going to be coming from a wired connection. Another 18% basically cellular. Everything else is going Wi-Fi. So we need, there's a lot of growth coming, a lot of space that we need to make up in a lot of our wireless deployments. So with that said, just want to talk about the different places where we're really focusing on for the wireless employee mobility. These are your corporate offices that have Wi-Fi in them so people can move around from one area to another, get into the conference room. But where we're seeing the hugest growth in our Wi-Fi segment is the customer or guest Wi-Fi. Anything from a hotel to a retail establishment. We're even seeing it refrigerators these days. Heck, my garage door openers in my house are now on the internet, and I can open and close the garage doors from my smartphone. Now, one of the things that is really pushing the Wi-Fi these days is the cellular capacity gap. Carriers are running out of room on the cellular networks, and anything they can push to Wi-Fi, they will. Or in fact, the users will push to Wi-Fi because they're running into their unlimited plans all have caps on them. You know, I personally had T-Mobile for a while, and they said, yeah, unlimited internet up to 2 gigs. And once you went beyond the 2 gigs of data transferred, they slowed you down to modem speeds. And so any chance I got, I would jump onto Wi-Fi for that. So secure Wi-Fi by WatchGuard. What we're really pushing is one system for managing both your wireless and your wireless networks. Just comparing our Wi-Fi solution to standalone Wi-Fi, centralized management for all of your security for both your wired and your wireless networks. Yes, we have it, and this is some marketing material. I'm going to breeze through it here. Consistent security policy is important between your wired and your wireless networks. Being able to apply all of the same security to your guest Wi-Fi is huge. Blocking malware, again, this gets into our security bundle of all these things that we can do. Dropping malware, preventing infected Wi-Fi clients from getting into the rest of the network. By using our wireless access points, we can do all of this. So I'm going to skip through that, and let's jump into the AP300 and talk about what this is doing. So AP300, we've now gone to a 3x3 antenna array. So basically there are 3 data streams going on at any given time. The AP300 does follow the new wireless AC standard, so 802.11 AC, which on the it is 5 gigahertz spectrum only, but you can get up to 1.3 gigabits per second on that. So we're talking faster than line speed under ideal conditions for your wireless. These things are indoor plenum rated, so you can put them above the ceiling tiles, power them with a PoE or PoE Plus injector, and supports all of the different channel widths. So couple of notes on this, couple of things we want to be aware of. First of all, if you're running the AP300, it does require firmware version 11.10.5 or higher. I've fielded a couple of calls that say we can't get it to pair. The answer was you've got to upgrade to the latest firmware, FireWare OS, to be able to see this. There is a new AP firmware version on these, 2.0.0.1. We'll talk about why that's important here in a second. They have changed the LED indicators on these AP300s. They're slightly different. For anybody that's interested, power and wireless indicators will alternately flash green if the device is ready to be paired. If the power indicator will slowly flash green if it's doing a firmware update. Now, speaking of these firmware updates, there is a little gotcha in here. So if you upgrade to 11.10.5 from anything other than 11.10.4, so if you're on 11.10, 11.10.2, 11.10.3, and upgrade straight to 11.10.5, there was a change in the partitioning on 11.10.4 that means if you upgrade from 11.10.3 or earlier straight to 11.10.5, you will not get the firmware, the newest firmware for these APs. They'll be stuck at 2.0.0.0 instead of having the ability to upgrade to 2.0.0.1. So if you do run into that situation, if you've got your APs on a lower firmware version, basically what you do is you're on 11.10.5, you rerun the upgrade process to 11.10.5, and that will add the AP firmware to the device. With that said, also if you do a factory reset of your firewall, it will lose the AP firmware that is stored on it. So again, if you upgrade to 11.10.5 from 11.10.3 or lower, basically just run the upgrade process twice to make sure you get that firmware image in place on your box. So pricing and availability, AP300s are out. I fully expect the AP200s to die out just because pricing on the AP300 MSRP is the AP300 is $30 more expensive than the AP200. You can get them in 1-year or 3-year support bundles. You can do competitive trade-ins, trade-ups as well. If you have the older models, you want to migrate to the AC wireless. There are SKUs and discounts available on those. So AP300, what's in the box? What do you get? The biggest change here from the older AP100s and 200s is the AC power adapter is sold separately. The reason for this is we're really pushing with these AP300s in we're trying to get into the wireless deployments, where the AP100s and 200s were great for that 1 or 2 off access points, maybe 5, maybe even up to 10 access points. These AP300s are really designed to get into the bigger deployments where you're going to be powering everything by either from a PoE injector or you've got a PoE switch in the background powering these. You know, especially if you're mounting a lot of these in the ceiling, you're not going to have physical plugs to plug a lot of these into. So you can still get the PoE adapter, or I'm sorry, the AC adapter or the PoE injector. Those are sold separately. They will work with any PoE or PoE plus adapter. So like I said, we're trying to get into the bigger wireless deployments with this, supporting up to about 500 employees, but in larger scenarios with our larger firewalls, even up to about 2,000 employees. So we're really pushing upstream in the wireless world with this. So some new features that are included. These are AP300 only features. First one of these, and actually before we get into some of these features, I do want to just cover basic setup. I've had a few questions on migrating from an AP200 to an AP300. You can see on my network right now, I have an AP200, I have an AP300 in place. The AP300s are going to work just like your 200s and 100s. So to pair these things up to your firewall, it's just a matter of coming into your system manager, going to your gateway wireless controller, going to your access point tabs, and telling it to refresh. It's going to ask for an admin password, and it should go out and discover my other AP300 here that is ready to be paired to the firewall. So I'm going to tell this to stop looking for them because it's found what I need. I'm going to pair this up. Now, default pairing passphrase, they actually fill that in for you now. If we show the passphrase, it's right here in the instructions, WGWAP. That is what you use to pair these things up when they're new and out of the box. You can change that and it is recommended to change that to something else. You do that through your wireless settings. So once you've done that, it gives you the ability to do your settings here. So I'm going to call this one second floor, and don't hit shift when you type the 2. Just a quick tip there, you won't get the 2. Assign IP addresses, so just like you're used to doing on your other access points, same setup here. So let me fill in my details. If you guys are taking notes, here's my internal IP address scheme in case anybody is breaking into my network. Okay, so with that said, this is everything we need. Now I come into my radio settings. I've already got my SSIDs set up from my other deployment, so I can just come in here. I've paired the radio. Now which SSIDs do I want to have broadcast out to off of which radio? So in my particular scenario here, I've got my 2.4 gigahertz radio, my slower radio, better coverage. Doesn't get as fast a speed, but signal travels farther. I limit that to just my guest network. And for my internal network, where I can guarantee that everybody is on the AC or the N standard, I'm going to put my internal network, and I've got a dedicated network for all of the tablets that the kids got for Christmas this last year. So with that said, just a couple of your settings in here. It does default. Your wireless mode is going to default to the AC or N. You can turn that down to just N if you want, but if you've got AC, you might as well do it. Channel width defaults to 40 megahertz. You can jump to 80 if you want. Rate, how fast it transfers, transmission power, all is set to auto. And we'll cover some of these other things like client limits here in a minute. So once I've done that, I can say, okay, I've got this access point paired. It's ready to go. I say, okay. I just have to push the change to my firewall. And here, once we get everything clicked to save and gone through, that access point will receive my settings. Usually takes about a minute or so for it to start broadcasting, and then we will have that access point live on my network. Okay, there we go. So one of the things I do want to do real quick is, while we're looking at this, I'm going to open up, if I can find it here. Let's jump this over to the correct screen. In the background, I am going to pull up our web interface, because there's a couple of cool things we can do in the web interface with our wireless clients. And once I type in my passwords, agree to the terms of service, we'll come to my gateway wireless controller, and I just want to kick off my maps here, and this will take a second to run. So while that is running in the background and updating, let's jump in and cover some of the new features that you get on the new access points. So again, these are AP300 only. So first feature that we're going to talk about is fast roaming. This is something that's automatically enabled. What this is doing is this is helping the clients, if you're roaming through the building, to get in and be able to move from one access point to another seamlessly, to help it with your voice over IP calls. Basically, what it's doing in the background is it's sharing the authentication rather than just storing it at the single access point. It shares it between all of the access points, so that as you're going between access points out there, each one already has the credentials for this. Now, this does apply only on your SSIDs. If we look at the security for this, this is my guest network. Dan is the best is the password in here that I make my mother-in-law enter every time she comes over to my house. let's see, I actually, if we go to the security on this, there we go. If I go to WPA2 Enterprise, at that point, that is where we get the ability to turn on the fast roaming. So this is something that only applies to the WPA2 Enterprise. If you're doing some kind of radius authentication, this is going to help with the handover. I know I've had some customers in the past that have had problems. If you're just doing WPA2, roaming will work between the clients. If you went to WPA2 Enterprise, you had some problems where it would not, you would have to re-authenticate each time you bounced to a new access point. So again, keep in mind, this is, the client also has to support the 802.11k and the 802.11r, and I think I make a note of that in here somewhere. Yeah, your wireless clients must support these standards, but this will help with the roaming between your different access points. Okay, fast handover, the other new feature. This is, especially for those of you with iPhones are familiar with this, you're in the building, you connect to the Wi-Fi signal in one location, but then you walk to the complete other end of the building and you've got a much better wireless signal from the local access point on that end, but your iPhone just does not want to let go and it hangs on to the access points from the other end. So what this is going to do is this is going to disconnect the client once a certain signal strength is reached, and then they will be forced to connect to whatever local access point they are. Again, what this is doing is it's using the RSSI, the Received Signal Strength Indicator, as a threshold to indicate that it needs to move from one access point to another. So again, this is only on the AP300, and this is on the General Access Point Settings tab. So if we come back in here, what we're going to look at is on the access point, we will enable this per access point, and it is the fast handover. And so basically you are going to set, if my client has a minimum signal strength, whatever you want to set that to be. Keep in mind, different client devices can have different minimum signal strengths. So you want to set this according to what you're seeing, what you're experiencing with your clients. Might take a little bit of measuring, a little bit of figuring out for what your environment needs. But then basically, if my signal drops to, I think the default was, let me cancel that, we'll get back in there. Default, -85. If you get to that signal strength, it is going to force a disconnect and have it reacquire whatever the local AP is. Now, this setting is disabled by default. One of the things that you want to keep in mind is do not enable the fast handover if you have band steering enabled, which band steering is the next piece that we're going to talk about. So keep in mind, fast handover and band steering do not work together. Band steering is basically saying if you've got 2.4 and 5 gigahertz broadcasting the same SSID, keep in mind it has to be the same SSID across both frequency spectrums, it will encourage the client to jump to the new faster 5 gigahertz. The reason for that is 5 gigahertz is much less crowded than the 2.4 gigahertz. So here is the band steering. This is basically, it does let you use both, but if you turn on fast handover, turn off band steering. If you turn on band steering, turn off the fast handover. The reason for this is if you're pushing clients to the 5 gigahertz spectrum, and those signal strengths can be a little bit lower, you can cause some disconnects that you didn't want to have if you've got both of these turned on. But the band steering, most of your clients, especially your modern cell phones, they're going to jump on the 5 gigahertz anyway, so this isn't something that you necessarily need, although it's something that can help if you've got clients, if you've got a lot of congestion in your airspace there that will if there's a lot of wireless access points around, you can get people to jump to the 5 gigahertz and clean up their connections a little bit. So client limits per radio. This is basically if you're in a large, highly concentrated environment, think conference room, think conference center, where you've got a large number of people packed into a small space, and you might have 10 access points or 20 or whatever it might be, all serving that one large conference room. What you can do is this is basically going to guarantee a certain amount of throughput per client, and so we can go into the let me jump back over here. When we jump back into the SSID, and so for my public guest network, let's see, I guess I went, maybe it's on the access point itself. Yeah, here we go. Applied as a global limit for all configured SSIDs on the radio. So this is actually a radio setting. So when we look at this client limit, we can actually say for this particular SSID that is being broadcast across this radio, we don't want more than 20 people to connect to this radio. In this case, where we've got a couple of SSIDs being broadcast across the same radio, we basically can guarantee throughput for our users by saying no more than 20 people can connect here, and from there they have to jump to the next access point in the room, which again will have more time available. They're getting a time slice of the airwaves so that they can get better throughput on those. So those are the 4 new features that are specific to the AP300s. Other new features, we can set up a wireless scan interval for the Rogue AP. We can also set some alerts for if we are having an access point go offline. There is also a new feature that if the firewall is the DHCP server for one of your networks, for example, on my guest network for my tablets here, I've got the firewall being the DHCP server, so I actually return host names. Now, of course, these are a lot of Android tablets and a Chromecast in here, but because they're participating on that network, I actually am able to view the host name of that because the firewall is the DHCP server. Again, and these are features that are specific to the 11.10.5 software. A couple other cool new things that are coming that are partly deployed right now that are also being improved with the next couple of versions is we are partnering with Guest Air. So if you want to turn your captive portal on your firewall, right now we have a very basic one. Somebody agrees to the terms and conditions, and then they click OK and they're able to get on that. We're partnering with Guest Air so that if you want to purchase the Guest Air services, we can turn your captive portal and you can collect any kind of field you want, whether it's sales receipt information, they have to put in a password that they got on their receipt, or if you want to do some marketing and collect their email address and phone number before you give them Wi-Fi, we can do all of that. So again, you do have to purchase the Guest Air separately, but the firewall will integrate with that to give you a portal that you can use. We are also bringing, later this summer, you will see the ability to log in through the portal through Facebook so that somebody can just use their Facebook authentication, and then you get all kinds of great marketing data for the people. Another standard that these boxes, these APs, have been approved for, this is not real big in the United States right now. It is launched in Europe, in the United Kingdom, and they are trying to expand this into the United States. But as you can see in the corner down here, Starbucks and McDonald's are both adopting this standard, so expect to see it very soon everywhere. So we've gone ahead and went through the process in our system and our setup. You can now get this digital friendly Wi-Fi approved provider. Now this is a sticker that you put on the front door of your retail establishment that basically if somebody comes in here and gets on the Wi-Fi, they can know their kids are going to be safe because you're filtering adult content from the network. So this is just a feature that you can add to the to a retail establishment as a, I don't know if it's a marketing gimmick or what, but our devices are approved for this friendly Wi-Fi standard. Back to these other features, I guess I had my slides out of order here. Wireless scan interval. Well, basically, you can just increase the interval where you want to send out the wireless scan, where you're looking for rogue access points, to reduce wireless usage on the network. When you have your wireless set up in here on your settings, we do have a notification that if we have wireless problems, send an alarm when an access point goes offline, send an alarm when a rogue access point is detected. You can set that to set up, send an email to you that will go through you whatever logging and reporting solution you have, whether it's the old logging and reporting server or the new Dimension server will generate that email based off of these alarm settings so that you can be notified of these things. We talked about, I showed you the wireless host name. You'll get that in your Dimension information as well. Other wireless enhancements improved, again, with the 11.10.5 software. Firmware updates now occur overnight between midnight and 4 a.m. based on local time. You can always do that manually. 2.4 gig mode is now GN only. If we come back here and look at the access point and our radio settings, I've turned mine back to BGN, but default setting is GN, so we can eliminate those B clients. If somebody's got a laptop or a device that old, they really need to replace it. But if they connect to your network, they're going to be slowing everybody else down on the network as well. So other wireless enhancements, hotspots, is now performed over HTTP to eliminate some certificate warnings. So that, in a nutshell, is the new AP300. They are out. They are available. They've been available since mid-January. If you are interested in upgrading that to these, please contact your local partner or your reseller, whoever you've purchased this through, if you are the partner. These are the new access points to start pushing. They've got some great new features, and expect to see more on the wireless front from WatchGuard going forward. There are some plans to expand our wireless line through the latter part of this year. So that's a little teaser for you guys to look for some more things coming midsummer time frame. The AP300 is just the first step. And with that, we'll wrap it up, and thank you all very much for your time. And again, feel free to type out any questions you may have. We'll respond to those via email, and with that, I'll hand it back to Elaine.
Thank you, Dan. Great presentation today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I will keep the webinar up for another minute or so in case any of you have